Local Atlanta musician Cayman Maggard knew from a young age that he wanted to make music.
I was one of the weird kids. Instead of being forced into piano lessons, I begged my parents for piano lessons. So I learned piano for a few years, starting at like 7. I wasn't particularly talented at it, but I liked it a lot. I did that for a few years. My parents got divorced, so we couldn't keep up with piano lessons. So I took the next instrument I could try, which was violin at school.
While learning the violin in the band program at school, Cayman was introduced to the instrument, which would become his weapon of choice.
I was given a guitar, did what most teens did, and I started a band with a few of my friends so we could play the middle school talent show. Like most teenagers trying to do loud rock, we just kind of like figured it out and did like home demos and stuff. That band was really fun. We did it all the way through high school.
After high school, Cayman tried his hand at the traditional college route, but music was never far from his mind.
I bounced around between a couple different colleges. I initially went to a college in Orlando, but then went back to where I grew up, Brevard County, Florida. I grew up in Titusville. I went back there because I got offered a half scholarship to play trombone in their band there. That was also the time period where I had my only professional guitar lessons. I'd taken a couple like one-off classes, but had mostly just learned through internet guitar tabs and the fledgling YouTube of the time.
While working towards his degree in school and sharpening his guitar skills in his free time, Cayman met and befriended fellow musicians who would prove crucial to shaping his path.
Eventually, I ended up moving to Tallahassee to pursue my degree, and that's where I met. A lot of really killer musicians, especially from like FSU's different music programs, and the drummer in my current band, Nowhere Safe, Nick Alper.
Eventually, fate would call Cayman to Atlanta, Georgia, by way of a former music student.
Somebody I taught lessons to owned a tech company, and I taught him and his whole family, and we grew pretty close. So one day he asked me how I was doing, and I was pretty honest that I'd been sick for weeks and was just overworked and behind on my bills. So I got offered an internship at a tech company here in Atlanta, along with a place to stay for a couple months. So I went ahead and took it, and they eventually put me in some customer-facing roles where I really excelled with it, and I got offered a full-time job. So that's what took me to Atlanta.
Though his new gig in Atlanta started out with promise, Cayman's resolve and dedication would quickly be put to the test.
The company went bankrupt after just a couple of months, kind of leaving me to decide, what was my next move. And I had already committed to dropping out of school. I didn't want to move back to Tallahassee and take on a bunch of student debt because my scholarships had reached their end. So I figured I'd see how hard I could do the musician thing. So at that point, I started working at a guitar store again. I was a tech at one of them. At another store, I was working as like a manager there. It was a super small mom and pop shop. And in addition to that, I was teaching lessons. And playing a lot of gigs, mostly with musical theater, but honestly, I would just record my guitar with whoever would let me do it.
This shotgun approach to making a living through music would soon prove to be a strategy that required some rethinking.
I didn't really have a lot of energy to write for projects that I wanted to do. So eventually I actually got an offer from an old contact to get back into tech, and I went ahead and took it. And it was a bit counterintuitive because I didn't think that picking up such a boring job and playing less gigs as a musician would make me a better musician. But it did, because for the first time I was able to live pretty comfortably and have choice of what I was going to do.
Cayman has found his ideal balance between security and creative liberty and is thriving as an active member of the Atlanta music community.
Sure, I will kick ass during the time that I'm being paid to work. But really, that's just a vessel to be able to pay my bills and have the time off and the mental energy to write and create music. Because ultimately, I much more want creating music and memories with friends and people in the community. I definitely want that to be more of my legacy than the value I create for somebody's.